Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more r/mad butthole. And if you love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, as we post twice daily. And let's crack straight on with today's first story. And our first story does come with a little update from Severe Kitchen 7045, who asks, am I the arsehole for not allowing my future mother-in-law to be a part of my pregnancy? My boyfriend, male 20, and I, female 19, just found out we're expecting a baby. Ever since we found out, we've told his parents and my parents. My parents are being super supportive, but his mother on the other hand, well, isn't. For context, she hasn't ever trusted me since I've started dating him in 2018. She has always accused me of being an attention seeker. For example, in 2019, when my car got stolen and she said I was doing it for the attention and my car didn't actually get stolen. And she did the same thing when I got into a major accident that left me without a car for a few months, and going to the doctor for a checkup every other week. So when she found out I was pregnant, she was being super nice to me. We've had a few conversations alone, and then later that night my boyfriend would text me everything she would say. She would say that she's the one at fault here, or that I'm just faking the pregnancy so I can get attention. Also trying to twist my words around, telling him I had told her we weren't using protection, which we were. After that, I told him I don't want to talk to her by myself anymore. Just so you all know, my boyfriend has been sticking up for me to his parents and anybody else who decides to bash me or our baby. A few days later, she walks into his room at 6:30 in the morning to wake him up and tell him that I did it on purpose to baby trap him, to make him get married to me. The only way I knew about this was because he texted me at 7 that morning to tell me what she had said. And it broke my heart because I wanted to have a good relationship with my future mother-in-law. So I told him I didn't want her involved in the pregnancy anymore if this is how she was going to treat me for the rest of my pregnancy. When he told her, she started crying and apologizing to S, but she hasn't apologized to me, and everybody except my boyfriend is telling me to let her help with the pregnancy. But I don't want her involved at all, and people are telling me I'm the arsehole. So, am I the arsehole? Now we've got some comments down below which is asking for some additional info which we're covering in a moment, but for me, the way she's talked about you, saying that, you're baby trapping him, that you're lying about your pregnancy and all these other toxic things she's saying, yes, I wouldn't want someone like that who's accusing me of those things around me either. So not just being a part of your pregnancy, but being part of your life at all if this is the way she's going to treat you. But Kombucha Enema says, info, is your boyfriend living with his mother? Is he in any way financially dependent on her? If the answer to both of these questions is yes, then you're in a tough situation. You don't owe mother-in-law anything, but your boyfriend does. Until he is financially independent and living with you instead of her, you don't get to kick her out of your life because that would mean kicking him out of your life. I know you use protection, but obviously that pesky 1% chance of failure came into play, and now you're pregnant and your baby's father appears to be living with his mother and not with you. You can cut her out your pregnancy, but the real issue is that he needs to move out or else you'll never be able to actually keep her uninvolved. Do you two have plans to get a place together? To which OP replied to him, we do. I live in a small apartment, though it's not big enough for the two of us, so we're looking for a bigger one. And he stayed home to focus on college, so he didn't have to work so much except on the weekends. But since he's graduating within the next few weeks, he will be working more and he'll be able to move out with me and the baby. 14 Forever says not the arsehole. Haven't you wondered why your boyfriend persists in telling you every negative thing his mother says about you? Are you sure she's really saying these things and this isn't your boyfriend's underhanded way of pushing you away? In a normal situation, a boyfriend would downplay his mother's negative comments. You need to ask yourself whether this woman has said any of these things about the stolen car, the car accident, or the baby to your face. If she hasn't, you need to ask yourself whether your boyfriend is manipulative enough to make this up. Deep down, you know the answer. He may not be willing to make a commitment to you and your baby, and he may be using his mother as an excuse. Compare his talk to his behavior. How are his actions showing a commitment to you and your baby? OP says he's not manipulative because I've seen how she is when she talks about him. She will talk bad about him to me and then be nice to him 5 minutes later. Especially when he was in the pavilion, she constantly badmouthed him to me while we're discussing what all had happened, so in reality it makes me believe him a lot more than I believe her when she says anything nice to my face. 14 says, then ask yourself why is he repeating every cruel thing she says about you, which OP replies again saying because I ask him what's making him mad. We communicate and we share our feelings with each other. He wants to have this baby, there is no doubt about that. And a couple more comments, one from Pookapotamuses who says, not the arsehole, you owe her nothing, she is being incredibly toxic and rude to you. And the Borch says, not the arsehole, she can be part of the pregnancy when she directly apologizes and works the issues out with you. Now, let's cover the mini update to see what that says. For all of y'all that are wondering, we are currently looking for a new apartment. He is still living with his mum because he's had to focus on college, so he has only had time to work on Fridays and the weekends, and luckily finals are next week and he graduates pretty soon. So he'll be able to work more and we can find a better apartment, but my lease is ending soon and my apartment is too small for the two of us, so that's the main reason he hasn't moved out with me quite yet. And I hope we get further updates on this one in the future to find out how they get on, you know, once they moved out together and how the mother acts with that, because I got a feeling it's not going to go quite as smooth with that kind of mother-in-law. But what do you guys think of our first story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Disappointment6, who asks, am I the arsehole for being ungrateful of the cake my boyfriend made me? I, 33 female, have been dating a man, Alex, 34 male, for almost 3 years. Alex has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous marriage that he has full custody of. When we met, Alex was doing very well. He made 6 figures and he had a decent house in a fine neighborhood. I had a slightly lower paying job. Almost a year and a half ago, his job had to cut some employees and he was one of them. He had to take on a job and earn much less than he had before. I moved into their house 5 months ago. Since I moved in, I've helped a lot with the bills, usually half or more of them. Yesterday was my birthday. I wanted to celebrate at a nice restaurant near us, however, it was closed. There was another one a little closer to us, although it was more expensive. I suggested going there for my birthday to Alex and he said that he couldn't afford to pay for dinner there, and if we went, we would need to split the bill. I was a little upset, but he said he would make something himself. The cake I wanted was admittedly somewhat expensive. I pointed it out to him and he said again that he didn't think he could afford it with Christmas coming up and would have to go half. I told him I wasn't paying for a cake for my own birthday, and he said he'd see what he could do. Well, yesterday came. He made dinner and it was quite good, better than most meals we eat, although not as good as what it would have been at a restaurant. However, when he brought the cake out, it was just something he made himself. He said he was sorry he couldn't afford the nicer cake, but he had made this one and his daughter had helped. I pretended to enjoy it, but after I told him that I was hoping for a slightly nicer cake. He said he had tried his best and he couldn't spend the money he had set aside for bills on a cake. I guess his daughter heard, because now he's also saying that I made her upset after she helped make it. He keeps saying I should apologize to her and say that I really liked it. Am I the arsehole? And to me in this one, it does feel like you're being quite a bit ungrateful of the situation. And I'm a big fan of homemade birthday cakes anyway. I can remember a couple of years back, one of my nephews came in so excited that he had made me a cake, and it was a Minecraft cake, looked like a creeper head. Absolutely blown away by it. And more than the look of the cake or the flavor of the cake or anything like that, it's the thought that went into it, that this person was so excited to make me a cake and hand it to me, and that just made my day. Someone took the time out of their day to stand there and think about what I would want. Absolutely amazing. And for someone in this situation, you know, who's been cut from their job and, you know, having to save their money to pay for bills, to pay for Christmas, to then also go out of their way to bake you a cake and try to make something you'd want out of love like that is absolutely amazing. And it does just sound ungrateful of you to me in this one. So I am going to say you're the arsehole. Potentially controversial, I don't know yet. We shall find out. But Evening Jellyfish 1 says, you're the arsehole. Wow, you sounded conceited and unappreciative of what you have. I'll consider a homemade cake and meal much more of a heartfelt birthday gift than someone forking out $200 on me at dinner. You lucked out with this guy, but be careful because it sounds like you don't realize it, and soon enough he will end up with someone who does. ETA, wow, thank you everyone. This is my top performing comment ever. Blogsy Mux Blogs a lot replies to that saying, the boyfriend doesn't deserve her. He deserves much, much better. So does his daughter. You're the arsehole times 100,000. Hope you like those 6 figures. Late for dinner says, oh my god, a 33-year-old bitching about a cake. When this is a responsible man prioritizing his bills, providing for his child, and being an overall awesome guy. Sounds like you had no problem when Buddy was making 6 figures, but now that he's an average Joe, he's below you. Let this man go and sink your claws into the next walking bank account you find. Edit. You're the arsehole who needs to remove their head from said asshole. Also, your username is fitting. You're a damn disappointment to this man. Something New says you're the arsehole. Honestly, I would much rather a home-baked cake than a shop-bought one. I get you're disappointed, but it sounds like your SO went to a huge amount of effort to make your birthday special within budget, and, to be blunt, I think you're being a bit of a brat about it. Triarchal says, my mum makes me a carrot cake every year I am home. Has since I became an adult. I hate carrot cake, there is nothing about it I like. I always hug her and say thank you, and then eat the cake after demanding to know how many innocent carrots had to die for my beautiful cake. Now I love my mum, but the woman can't cook or bake, but the look of her face when I start saying I'm going to report her for carrot murder makes the really terrible cake worth it. That's lovely. Cillian Nellis says you're the arsehole. Either break up and date someone who can afford your taste, pay for your shit yourself, or be quiet and grateful for what your partner tried to do for you. Those are your options. Instead, you rejected his admittedly very nice meal and the cake he baked for you, and made his child who tried to help make your birthday nice feel like shit. You're 33. Grow up and act like it. Yeah, and I didn't even mention that in my comment about the whole six figures thing, and that certainly did jump out to me as well. But what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Pissed Winehead, who says, am I the arsehole for giving the PS5 my husband bought to my nephew? I'm a 35-year-old woman, and my husband is 37. I discovered the other day he bought a PS5 as a gift for himself. But the thing is, he used my money to do so without my permission, using a portion of my emergency savings that he had access to in case of, you know, an emergency, which I do not believe being able to get your hands on a new video game console classes as. This led to a huge argument, and I took the console away and reboxed it up. I debated on returning it to the shop for the money, but I know my sister has been struggling to find one for my 13-year-old nephew for over a year. So instead I wrapped it up and took it around to hers and put it under the tree, and quietly explained what it was and what had happened. My sister then gave me the money for it. My husband went ballistic, shouting and demanded I go and get it back, which of course I refused to do, telling him as it had been bought with my money, it was my choice what happened to it. He is now sulking and refusing to talk to me and acting like a huge child. Edit, for anyone curious about our money situation and why I'm so angry. We each put half our salary into a communal family fund for the house, bills, groceries, etc. The other half is ours to play with as we want. My husband always blows through his and never saves a penny. Half of my expendable money goes into savings for emergencies, and I'm more realistic. Second edit, stating here because of comments. He refused to pay me back as it was an emergency. Third edit, I've emptied the emergency account that he has access to and put it all in my personal account that he does not have access to, including the money I got from my sister for the PS5. Now on this one, I think you was correct on the very first paragraph. It was an emergency fund. I don't think a PS5 counts as an emergency. Now I know there's probably a few of you out there who's probably just went, hell yeah, it's an emergency. But come on now, you know it's not a real emergency. And from this huge negative, not only did you get your money back, you've also made your 13-year-old nephew's Christmas absolutely amazing. So I think it's a great thing that this huge positives come out of this negative situation. What you do with your husband here, I don't know. Wow, I can see from the edit that you've already taken that money out of the emergency account and put it in your one, which I think was the best thing to do in this situation. It wasn't joint money, it was your emergency savings by the sounds of it, what you saved. So absolutely not the arsehole from me. But Terry says, not the arsehole, cut off his access to your money. There is no emergency so immediate that you couldn't pay it yourself. Gemma says, not the arsehole, and I'll take away his access to the account. If he wants a console, he can pay for it. He didn't even ask you. What the fuck, he's an adult and he needs to sort out his finances. Pure Mango says, not the arsehole, it is your money that he technically stole. He's a grown adult and he should know that emergency money is for an emergency, not for a brand new gaming console. Since it was bought with your money, it's yours and you can do whatever you wanted with it. If he wants a PS5, let him work and save up for it. Betty Moon says, not the arsehole, but you guys clearly have bigger issues. Healthy relationships don't lead to one party going into the other's emergency funds to spend on a console. You probably could have handled it better. I'd be selling on eBay and making my money back and then some, but I think you need to maybe look into some couples counselling. OP replied saying, I considered returning it to the shop, but my sister has been looking for one for so long and the kid deserves it way more than my husband. And one more from Butterscotch Super 393 who says, all the men calling you an arsehole, lol. Not the arsehole. We are taught as children not to take what isn't ours. Just because you want something doesn't mean you can just take it. Now, what do you guys make of this situation? I knew there was going to be a couple of people in there somewhere that says you're the arsehole. Couldn't find the comments myself though. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Specialist Page 9589 who asks, am I the arsehole for telling my husband that if he wants his spoiled brat of a daughter to come over for Christmas, he can cook? My husband Rob and I are married later in life and each one have a daughter from a previous relationship. I'm going to refer to my stepdaughter as Maggie. To be 100% honest, I would not have even considered marrying Rob if Maggie had been underage. She is extremely difficult. I blame Rob and his ex for a lot of it, but some of it seems beyond anyone's control. She has never worked a day in her life. She was never held accountable for being a mean girl in school, and even as an adult, she throws tantrums. I've seen her throw herself to the ground, cry until she can't breathe. Her husband responds by treating her like an actual toddler, tickling, rocking. It is very weird. She is 35 now, has 2 kids, but they are always with the nanny, and she just seems unaware of her privilege. She is unhealthily obsessed with her husband and calls Rob during the day, despite him still working full time, and demands attention because she doesn't know what to do with herself when her husband is at work. I'm not trying to be some wicked stepmother, but this woman is annoying. Last Christmas I made her a homemade sweater and she loved it. She picked the colours and design, and she found out my daughter had the same one in a different colour and cried and accused me of wanting to humiliate her. She constantly is smug about what her husband buys her and tries to imply that my daughter is poor, despite my son-in-law making excellent money. When anyone else is getting attention, she bounces around, clings to her husband, or causes some scene to put the attention back on her. In the past, when I asked her to help me in the kitchen, she threw a fit, despite liking to cook, because she didn't want to be in the kitchen with me, my daughter, my sister, and my niece, because she thinks we all talk shit about her. Which I think really translates to she made a fool of herself trying to upstage my daughter at her wedding, and my family witnessed that. Anyway, she normally does Christmas at her house. I don't go because I want to spend Christmas with my daughter and because Maggie is a lot. Maggie isn't hosting this year because of a minor surgery, ruptured breast implant, but she doesn't want to do all that cooking, which is fine. But Rob wants me to host this year and invite both of our daughters, and he cites that my daughter just had a baby and shouldn't have to cook either. I was going to go to her house and cook. I said I don't really feel like spending Christmas with Maggie because of her behaviour, and my daughter should relax, which is impossible with Maggie bouncing off the walls and talking a mile a minute. He accused me of just not liking his daughter. I said if he wants to host Maggie and her husband, he can cook. He can't, and I will go to my daughters like planned. He thinks I'm being unfair because it is Christmas and she is his only blood family, and he feels I would be angry if he did the same with my daughter. Edit, for all those people asking what Maggie did at the wedding. She wore a very over-the-top dress which was so beaded and sparkly, even she was uncomfortable at some point due to it being scratchy, and made a joke about how my daughter isn't in love and only like 1% of people can actually experience love and we aren't deep enough. She threw a fit about that she was going to pass out because it was hot and demanding food. It was kind of warm, but she has no health issues that should make it so she needs cake at that moment or will die. She complained about the food, complained that my daughter was getting attention. Her husband got drunk and was sucking all over her, and she ended the night by loudly announcing that her parents didn't love her enough. When you mentioned the bit that she's on the floor like having a tantrum like a toddler kind of thing, and then you went on to the next bit and you said she's 35, I was like, what the hell? And it became a pretty much not the arsehole from that point with me, and you know, the father to be enabling this kind of behaviour, it just has to stop. Who wants to spend Christmas with someone like that? They just don't. And quoting the section where he said he accused me of not liking his daughter, and let's face it, he's not wrong about that, is he? You don't like her because of the way she acts, and he enables that as well. But suggesting that you have to invite both daughters and you do the cooking when, you know, he can't cook himself is like, Yeah, not the arsehole to me, but Southern Hamster 338 says not the arsehole. If it were me, I'd go to my daughter's house and cook. Sorry honey, I have plans because my daughter just had a baby and I don't want her to have to travel or be around a bunch of people with a newborn. Period. End of story. He'd be welcome to either come with me or he could go to his own daughter's house, and if his daughter is so rich then she can afford to hire someone to cook their Christmas dinner. I'd send a lovely gift with him and a beautiful daughter-in-law card with it so she couldn't say mean things about me. Not that would stop her, lol, but this is what I would do. Enjoy your Christmas with your daughter and new grandbaby. And Empowerment Princess says not the arsehole. Rob's poor parenting enabled Maggie's unacceptable behaviour. Maggie sounded like she is very spoiled and entitled, but she might also have a mental illness that was never addressed. Your response is appropriate considering Maggie is a grown woman. You don't need to have her in your life. I think you and Rob need to go for counselling, and you should go if he refuses. If this doesn't work out, it's time to consider leaving him. Mibunakami says, and quotes, he accused me of just not liking his daughter, and then says, well, he's not wrong, that's pretty clear, but it sounds like your stepdaughter has given you ample reason not to like her. I'd say no one's an arsehole here. Dad wants to spend time with his daughter, which is reasonable, even if she does sound like a monster. She's his monster, I guess, and you want to spend time with your daughter and new grandchild, without having to tiptoe around your stepdaughter. Explain that honestly and see where it goes. Yellow Stop says not the arsehole. Family dynamics aside, don't volunteer to host a holiday and shift the burden of hosting and preparing the meal to another person. If your husband can't cook, he's perfectly capable of ordering a prepared meal to heat up and serve. He can host his daughter and her family, and you can go to your daughter's house. And the Katamari kid says, when I first began reading, I was appalled thinking you were talking about a child or teenager. Then seeing she's 35, I was shocked. Clearly she has issues, and honestly her parents didn't do anything to nip that in the bud and aren't setting boundaries now. It sounds like an insufferable situation. I'd say not the arsehole. Your husband needs to set boundary and also respect yours. His daughter isn't a child regardless of her behaviour. Does her husband put up with her behaviour as well? Are her children acting similarly? If so, God save them. You don't need to cook for this 35-year-old, especially considering this wasn't going to be a part of your Christmas plan. It's not like you're inviting everyone over and cooking for them, leaving her to fend for herself. Sounds like an entitled brat. Now, what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in the channel, all that kind of good stuff. If you've made it this far, please consider hitting that like button as well. Hugely helps out. Leaving a comment too. Love to hear your thoughts and what you're doing whilst you're listening as well. Always makes my day, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys. Much love.